Guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to show you these new magic gels that I got. They are the magic paints. The pink sand and the universal black is what I've got painted on here. Only one coat, can you believe it? I'm going to be painting calligraphy with the neon tangerine on top of the black nail today, and then over top of the pink sand we're going to be using the universal black. I've already got one done on the left side here. I've done kind of a cool marbly look, but we're going to play around with some different looks on the black and the nude today. I also just want to bring up the fact that every single time I'm doing either like a character or font like we're doing today, I always have my iPad up next to me. Don't be shy. Have it up next to you so you can refer to the pictures and make sure that everything is scaled to the right size. If you don't do it, then your font can look a little wacky, or if you're doing character art, they gonna look a little weird. Another thing that I wanted to point out is the fact that when you're doing calligraphy, it's really important that you start with the smallest nail, which is generally always the pinky. This is because you don't want to create a font that is too big, and then by the time that you get to the pinky, the font isn't going to fit. If you start with the pinky, then you know that that font size is going to fit on all the rest of the nails, so you will be golden. Just a really nice trick to save you a lot of time in the long run if you accidentally screw up. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I've done this in the past before, and there's nothing more annoying than doing the font too big and then you get to the pinky and you're like, ah shit, I'm out of room. So I'm going to start, what letter should I do? I think we're going to do the E today. So let's do an orange E on the black nail for electric nails, and then we'll do a black N on the nude nail. So just preparing this nail here, we are going to have our iPad out. I'm gonna just go ahead and put my nails on top of my iPad so you guys can see the reference picture while I'm working. So whenever I'm doing any sort of hand painting like this, I either like to use my Ugly Duckling striper brush, or today I'm going to use my YQ number 2. I got a Adora beauty supply here in Vancouver. The reason I'm not using my Ugly Duckling striping brush is because I left it out in the sun, and unfortunately it is not in good shape right now. I'm waiting for my magic gel paint brushes to come in. Super excited for that. They're not in yet, so I'll have to suffice with these. But first I'm going to start out by just taking a look at where I want to map out this nail. So because the E actually has a line going through the center of the nail, it's really nice because it helps me scale out exactly where I want my E to go in the first place. So the length and height of that line obviously needs to be no larger than the width of the nail, because the height of that E is about the same as the width of the E. So taking into account how far it is from one side of the nail to the other, I'm going to do this line about the same distance. So we're just going to roughly sketch to begin. You don't want to do all the work of making sure that each line is absolutely perfect along the way, because realistically, if you don't scale it properly, you're going to have to go back and redo it anyway. So it's good to just kind of sketch, make sure that you've scaled everything before you go in and perfect every single line. So while I'm working, you'll definitely notice that it's not going to look perfect until it's done, but just bear with me here. So just looking at this E, oopsies, and just making sure that each line is scaled to where it needs to go. So this one here is about halfway down that vertical line. And then this one, it doesn't go quite as far as the top corner there. So I'm just gonna, oopsies, I'm just gonna take it in and meet it not quite as far as that one. Close, but not quite, just like how it is in the picture, our reference picture here. So just outlining that piece, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do my next line going next to the vertical line that I hand painted first. So just slowly moving it down the nail. I'm going to pick up a little bit more gel on my brush this time because it is a bit of a thicker line. Thin lines, less paint. Thick lines, more paint. So I'm just going to get that nice and vertical parallel to that original line that I painted on. And then I'm going to paint out that little tick so that I know how far to paint my moon when it comes time for that. So I'll start my moon at that kind of point along the edge there, because I know that that moon needs to meet up with those lines. So I'm just gonna roughly kind of sketch where the moon needs to come out to, just to get a good basis. And then I'll come up around the top and do the same thing. And just slowly, slow motions, kind of screwed that up a little bit, no big deal. I can just come in with my clean striper brush or detailer brush and kind of fix those little edges up later. So I'm just going to take my brush and fill in the blanks here. And just kind of perfecting all of the little lines and edges now that I've got everything scaled to size. So I'm coming in with my clean striper brush right now and just cleaning up that little edge to get a nice crisp, sharp line there on my moon. And once that's all cleaned up, then I can come in and start filling in the rest. So just filling in the bottom of this moon now, cleaning up those edges and making sure that the width is there, referring back to my old picture, making sure that the width is the same on all the lines, and to scale with the reference photo. So I'm pretty happy with that moon now. And then I will come in and fix the rest. So just really slow, controlled movements. It's no big deal if you are finding that you maybe made a line too thick. You can just come in and clean it up with your clean detailer brush. But just really working to get really nice, even lines. Because when you look at the reference photo with the calligraphy, a lot of the lines have an even width, and you want to make sure that those are accurate to what the reference photo is. So now just coming in, and I'm just gonna smooth out this line, make sure it's a little more pigmented by dragging more color over it, and then I've got to thicken out this top line because I didn't do it in the first place when I sketched my nail out. So just thickening that up, cleaning up those edges, and filling in anything that needs to be filled in. Amazing. So now I will cure it for 30 seconds. Just gonna double check it to make sure. Perfect. Cure for 30 seconds. And then I'm going to do the N. So when you look at the N, obviously it doesn't have that middle line. So you're really just gonna be mapping out the points of the N. So you're going to be mapping out each edge, you're going to be mapping out the height, as well as the bottom. So when you have your nail, you can see that obviously the nail that we're doing is a stiletto. So you're going to lose a little bit of the width on the bottom there. As long as it's not affecting the way that the letter looks, then it's no big deal if you're missing a little tiny bit of the letter. In our case, there is a little bit of the N that kind of hangs over on the left-hand bottom side. It's totally okay. It's not going to affect the way that our N looks. We'll just kind of have to use our imagination and play around with it a little bit to make it work. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this nail next to the N so you can see here. So notice how that little side left bottom portion of the N, it's going to have a hard time fitting onto there and having everything scaled to size. So we're just going to use our imagination, like I said, and just cut that out of there. And we're going to map out the points on our nail where we're going to be drawing everything out. So we'll want to make sure that we're mapping out the edges from the left and right side, as well as the top and bottom points. So first we're going to start with this point right here. So we're going to want to make sure that we're comparing it to the height of our nail from before. So when you look at it, that point on the N isn't the highest point of the N, it's slightly below it. So we're going to kind of compare it to our other one on our E, where the right top portion of the E was kind of the same thing. It's a little bit lower than the highest point. So we're going to kind of compare it to that and scale it next to that E and start that point right there. And then we're going to kind of come up and mark that top portion of that N. Then we're going to go ahead and mark that right side where the N kind of has that nice curve, where that's going to come down through. And then we'll go along and map out where the bottom piece of that N is going to be. So comparing it to the bottom part of our E. And then same thing with the bottom left side of the N. So now that we have it all mapped out, then we can kind of start to connect the dots. So let's just kind of go in and sketch, do a rough little sketch. So we'll bridge the gap between these two boys. And then we'll take our brush And we'll kind of start it from down a little bit to do the bottom portion of this next curved line and meet it with this bottom bit. And notice this is gonna look like absolute crap, I'm just saying. It always does until you go in and correct everything in the end. This is why this is just kind of a sketch, just to get a basic idea of where the nail is going to sit, or sorry, where the design is going to sit on the nail, just to get a good kind of measurement to scale everything. So just kind of filling that in to try to figure out if I've got enough space there, which I definitely do. And then I'm gonna come in and fill in that bottom little bit. It's okay that we don't have quite enough room on the bottom right-hand side. I'm just gonna do my best to mimic the reference photo that we have here. And then I'm gonna come in and do this vertical line, which is gonna be the line on the left-hand side of the N. So I'm gonna do a really nice thin line. I'm working up because I don't wanna screw up my view on my lap or on my iPad, but it would probably be easier to go in a downward motion and pull towards yourself. So once you got a thin, nice little line there, then you can come in and fill in those two little bowed lines, connecting the outer edges of the N. And then just kind of cleaning up that little edge a little bit. And then we're gonna take our brush and we're gonna do another vertical line, picking up a bit more product this time because this line is quite a bit thicker than the last one. We're gonna come in, okay, that's too much product. We're gonna come in and paint this line on next to that thin vertical line that we did. So just getting a nice parallel line to that. I'm kind of filling in that top bit. And then I'm gonna come in and get that little swoosh going on the left side. So it won't be like the picture is because there's just not enough room for it. You could have done a smaller font to make these fit. This is kind of where doing font gets a little bit tricky. But like I said, it's no big deal based on the fact that you can definitely still tell that it's an N. If you couldn't, if it was cutting off a major portion of the letter, obviously we would have to redo something. But for this case, it's not a huge deal. It definitely still looks like an N. So now I've got everything to scale, so I'm going to move away the iPad and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to clean up all of those little edges, making sure that everything is super, super even and all the gaps are filled in and that all the points are nice and sharp. So just coming in and cleaning up all those edges. I'm going to use my gel brush to get away a lot of this product. Normally I would just use a detailer to kind of clean up edges, but because that line was like way too thick, it's just easier to come in with a gel brush and get rid of that. So that's all good now, and I'm gonna cure it for 30 seconds. And then, I don't know about you guys, but I love me some matte over top of calligraphy. It looks so fucking badass. So I'm just gonna paint my matte top coat all over these. Bada bing, bada boom. And then I'm gonna cure my matte top coat for 60 to 90 seconds. Beautiful. And then this is when it's all matted. So as you can see here, everything's scaled. Electric nails, baby. Thanks for tuning in.